I was actually just sitting at my desk at work, and then it pretty much exploded.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the worst of the worst in the world of smartphones. We're all going to be wondering exactly what the manufacturers were thinking when these came out.
The handset adjusts my view of the screen to give an impressive 3D effect.
Number 10, Toshiba G450. Let's face it, in the early aughts, phone manufacturers were still trying to figure out exactly what people wanted from their devices. One such contraption was the Toshiba G450. Is it an MP3 player, a phone, or a USB stick? Apparently it was all three, but with one of the most peculiar designs ever seen. One look at this gadget, and you'd likely never guess it was ever intended to be a phone at all. With a ridiculous circular dial pad, even just trying to put a number in was tedious, and the fact that some buttons arbitrarily changed functions depending on what screen you were on made things worse. No thanks, Toshiba. Stick to laptops. Number 9, Asus Garmin phone.
Connecting to the worlds around you.
Today, many vehicles leverage the power of their own mapping tech, or apps like Google Maps for navigation. But Garmin made quite a name for themselves as a supplier of high-quality outdoor GPS systems, as well as in-car navigation. Garmin released the Asus Garmin phone, followed by several other attempts to capture their slice of the smartphone market. Unfortunately, their lack of experience in this space was clearly evident in their devices.
It's 1.7 iPhones in speed when you turn it to the side.
Poor battery life, a clunky interface, and a subpar camera were contributing factors to this phone's failure. Garmin bailed on their smartphone attempts by mid-2010.
The camera is not good.
Not so much with the good.
At all. No, serious. Most pictures are blurry.
Number 8, Pantech Jest. If Apple and Samsung are the Gucci and Louis Vuitton of smartphones, then Pantech is probably closer to a Walmart or Target. That's not to say there's anything wrong with their devices, but they don't always measure up to many others in today's market. One such device was the Jest. Aside from its slide-out keyboard, the most remarkable thing about this option is how truly generic it is. There's nothing inherently bad about the phone, it just comes off as more of an electronic version of meh. As of today, Pantech no longer makes cell phones, and perhaps that's for the better.
Sometimes simple is just smarter.
Number 7, HTC Evo 3D. Do you remember when 3D was all the rave? Movies, TV, and even game systems were trying to cash in on the 3D trend. We can look back now and see how short-sighted much of this was, but at the time, everyone thought it was going to be the next big thing. HTC, a fairly reputable cell phone manufacturer, tried to introduce 3D tech into their phones with the HTC Evo 3D. Its camera was supposed to be able to take 3D photos you could see without glasses.
The cameras simultaneously grab images from different angles and produce stunning, "I can't believe I'm seeing this on my phone" type moments.
Yet, much like the 3D TV experience, much of what customers got was underwhelming. Aside from the gimmick, the phones themselves lacked anything notable, proving that a single feature does not make a phone great.
The HTC Evo 3D is a phone that takes your mobile life into another dimension.
Number 6, Microsoft Kin 1. No one will ever argue that Microsoft has put out some stinkers over the years, but their Kin line of phones brings failure to a whole new level. To call them smartphones is a bit of a misnomer, given that all it really was intended for was messaging on apps like Facebook and Twitter. Sorry, X. A small screen with a limited slide-out keyboard failed to impress anyone. Apparently, even internal focus groups said the devices were terrible, but the company pushed ahead anyway. Clearly, those groups were right, as it only took a couple of months for Microsoft to pull the plug on the whole thing.
The company reportedly only sold about 500 Kins since the May release.
Number 5, HTC First. For a time, it seemed that one popular social network was obsessed with creating the Facebook phone. One such attempt was the HTC First. It was the first, get it? Device to make use of Facebook Home. Essentially, it was a reskinned version of the Android Home and lock screen, made to integrate with much of Facebook's features.
Welcome to Facebook Home, a whole new experience for your phone.
This was supposed to be the hook to get users to buy the device, but instead, all it did was irritate them. The lackluster hardware, combined with the excessive bloatware apps, pushed the phone out of the market and forced Facebook to look elsewhere. Number 4, BlackBerry Storm. Years from now, business students will learn how even companies at the top of their game can crumble for a lack of insight. BlackBerry was the mobile device of choice with business users for years, but the release of the iPhone in 2007 changed everything. Research in Motion, the company behind BlackBerry, scrambled to come up with a viable competitor and gave us the BlackBerry Storm.
It feels like a keyboard, just no keys.
Dumping their fan-favorite physical keyboard for a virtual one, it became overwhelmingly clear BlackBerry was not great at software development. Between the buggy touchscreen and a terrible app experience, the phone was hated by everyone.
The Storm was trashed by critics who called it a definite letdown.
They tried to fix their issues with the Z10, but it was too late. Apple and Android had won this market. Number 3, Amazon Fire Phone. Will companies ever learn that sometimes you should just stay in your own lane? The Amazon Fire Phone was another example of a company trying to release a mobile device aimed exclusively at promoting its other services.
New Amazon Fire Phone. It comes with Amazon Prime.
Facebook had failed the year before, and in 2014, Amazon found themselves in a similar situation. Perhaps the biggest mistake they made with this Android device was forcing users to go through Amazon's own app store.
It's kind of like I'm looking at a different world when I'm just looking at the lock screen.
Google Play was purposely locked out of the devices, forcing users to find little to nothing in the way of the apps they wanted. A year later, production ceased on the device, and no one has missed it since.
But this is an arena where many more established tech players have fallen, and only 2, Apple and Samsung, make any real money.
Number 2, Samsung Galaxy Note 7. We're pretty sure that Samsung should have used Amazon's naming for this device. The Samsung Galaxy Fire Phone would have been a far more adept description of the smartphone.
So we went on a mission to create not just a big phone, but a phone that helps you do big things.
Typically known for their high-quality devices, the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 was by all accounts a fantastic smartphone, except for one small problem. It was prone to spontaneously bursting into flames.
The government warns that the Galaxy Note 7 could explode or burst into flames, so it's calling back nearly 1 million of them.
You know it has to be bad when the US Department of Transportation officially bans a phone from being brought onto an aircraft. Once news broke of how dangerous these could be, Samsung pulled the plug and managed to recover, continuing to produce great products since.
We did not meet the standard of excellence that you expect and deserve.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, Nokia 7280. Nokia might have given us the unkillable model 3310, but they certainly had their share of misses over the years. Exactly what were they thinking when they tried to combine gaming and smartphone tech with the N-Gage? The real question mark, though, comes from their 7280 model released in 2004. Nicknamed the lipstick phone from its shape, it looked more like an MP3 player than a phone. More notably, it had no dial pad. Instead, it featured a circular control that was some sort of hybrid child between a rotary dial telephone and an iPod controller. Although featured in a few music videos, the phone's poor interface killed any chance it had. Have you ever owned a terrible smartphone? Did we miss it on this list? Let us know how terrible it was down in the comments.
I've been on this earth 9 years. I've never seen anything like it.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.